Hello, I'm David Adams, and I'm a clinician, researcher, and trainer in the domestic violence field, and my particular area of expertise has been working with abusers. Now, in this segment of the training DVD, we'll be simulating the part of the elder abuse investigation that involves interviewing the alleged perpetrator, who's also the husband of the alleged victim. In alleged spouse abuse cases, there needs to be particular concern for the safety of the alleged victim, particularly in cases when he or she continues to reside with the alleged perpetrator. Therefore, it is never appropriate to interview the partners together, and best practice to interview them separately. It's also important that the alleged victim's reports of abuse not be referenced in any way when interviewing the alleged perpetrator. Now, the same goes for the children or other relatives who may also have made references to the abusive behavior. They also should not be referenced. If there is information about domestic violence from a police report, however, that can be used when querying the alleged perpetrator. Now, the key challenge when meeting with the alleged abuser is to get their side of the story without further antagonizing them or increasing the likelihood that they will be engaging in any kind of retribution towards the alleged victim or other family members. Adult protective workers must also be concerned about their own safety when conducting these queries, and consideration should therefore be given to who does the interview and where it is held. If the alleged perpetrator starts to escalate, such as by yelling or standing up, it's best practice to set limits about this in the early stages of such behavior. And if it persists, to end the interview. It's best practice for adult protective services to have written guidelines for assessing abusive behavior.
Kelly, tell me about your elder domestic violence allegation. What have you learned so far?
Well, you remember that we ruled out a home visit for Mrs. Stevens because she lives with her husband, Ralph, and the early indications were that she might be at risk for continued abuse by him. I arranged to meet Mrs. Stevens, Gloria, at her daughter and son-in-law's house, so this wouldn't arouse any suspicion by Ralph. Ben, her son-in-law, was actually the abuse reporter. He called it in after hearing an altercation between Ralph and Gloria when he was at their house. He heard them arguing from the next room. He heard Ralph going after Gloria when he was about to check in on her, and Gloria came running out of the room, and Ben observed that she had a substantial bruise under her eye. When I visited Gloria, it had turned into a black eye. According to Ben, Gloria told him that Ralph struck her in the face with her hairbrush. When I interviewed Gloria, she seemed quite guarded at first, and I got the sense that she was holding back. With some prompting, she reported that her husband, Ralph, was prone to rages toward her, and from her descriptions, she seemed to have put a lot of effort into placating him. She talked about his always having to have things his way. I got the sense that Ralph might be very controlling. This fits in with what the police reported 2 weeks earlier. The Stevens' other daughter, Wanda, called the police after an incident when Ralph became enraged while Gloria was babysitting her grandson, Sam. According to the police report, Wanda said that Ralph flew into a rage when Sammy was crying in her arms and was screaming, "Put the kid down and stop spoiling him." He then grabbed Sammy out of his mother's arms and stormed into the bedroom and threw him into the crib. When Wanda tried to grab him back, Ralph grabbed him away again. During my second visit with Gloria, she essentially reported the same things. Gloria mentioned Ralph doesn't allow her to have a cell phone. She says she sometimes feels like leaving, but they've been married 40 years and she doesn't have any of her own money. She said she wouldn't be able to get along without him because of her financial situation. I explained that Ralph is breaking the law when he hits her or throws things at her. She has given me permission to interview him because she hopes he'll be less violent if he learns that he can be prosecuted for injuring her. She mentioned that Ralph is often outside the house playing golf. While this gives her a break from him, she is often stuck at home because she doesn't drive.
It sounds like there's a lot of concern about Ralph's temper by all the members of the family. Are they worried about Gloria's safety?
Yes, both children and Ben said they had witnessed Ralph yelling at Gloria and sometimes throwing things at her. They said that Ralph monitors her phone conversations with them, so yeah, there is a concern about Gloria's safety, about retribution. They're so concerned they no longer want Ralph seeing their children.
So how do you want to approach interviewing Mr. Stevens?
I'll call him later today to try to schedule an interview this week.
Where do you think the interview should be?
Well, since they're still living together, I think it's best not to do it at their home since he might try to confront her or somehow bring her into the conversation. I think it's best to have him come here.
I agree. That does sound like the best option. He sounds like he's a bit suspicious, so it might be difficult to query him without triggering his suspicions about Gloria or his daughters.
Yes, he might demand to know who reported the abuse, so I'll have to be firm in directing him back to telling me his side of the story.
Well, let me know when you have the appointment set up.
Hello, is this Mr. Stevens?
Who wants to know?
My name is Kelly Johnson, and I work for Elder Protective Services.
My wife's not here.
Mr. Stevens, I was actually calling to speak to you.
Me? What do you want with me?
As I said, I work for Elder Protective Services.
Elder Protective Services? What's that got to do with me?
We received a report of concern that I'd like to talk to you about.
Report of concern? Who made this report?
We're not able to disclose that information. That information is protected by law.
Oh, that information is protected, is it? Well, let me save you the trouble. Because it was my daughter, Wanda. She put you up to this. She's the one who had me arrested when I was seeing my grandson, claiming abuse and this and that. Well, I already talked to the police about it so that you can save your breath.
Mr. Stevens, I was hoping to meet with you to get your perspective about what's going on in the family.
My perspective? I'll give you my perspective to the judge if it comes to that. You're not the judge, are you?
No, I'm not, Mr. Stevens, but it's my job to talk with you and others who may have information to make sure things are okay.
Have you talked to my wife?
I'm unable to say who I've spoken with, Mr. Stevens, but I really want to hear from you to get a full picture of the situation.
Well, I can tell you this. If my wife said anything to you about me, it was Wanda that put her up to it.
But I'd really like to hear from you, Mr. Stevens.
Well, you are hearing from me. What do you want to know?
Mr. Stevens, I was just calling to make an appointment with you so we could talk.
When? I'm a busy man.
I know. Would tomorrow be possible?
Tomorrow? I got my golf tomorrow.
How about Tuesday?
I've got golf on Tuesday too, but we finish at 4.
I could meet you at 4, but I would need you to come to my office.
To your office? Is this really necessary?
Yes, Mr. Stevens. Thank you for understanding. My office is at 360 Cedar Street.
Assessments of abuse should include a combination of open and closed questions. Open questions provide the alleged abuser with the opportunity to tell his or her side of the story, and this is useful for 2 reasons. One, the opportunity to share his or her perspective may help to de-escalate the situation by conveying the message that his or her perspective is needed to complete the investigation. Secondly, abusers often unwittingly reveal abusive behavior by wanting to claim credit for what they've not done. For instance, he or she may say, well, I didn't punch her, I slapped her. Closed questions about specific types of abuse are important because many abusers do not consider specific actions like grabbing or pushing or throwing objects or damaging property to constitute abuse and will therefore deny that they've been abusive. They are much more likely to admit specific behaviors when asked specific questions. Also, abusers will often claim positive intentions when describing abusive behavior, such as, well, I was just trying to get her to listen to me, or I was just trying to calm her down. While this sort of minimization and denial is appropriate for a treatment program to discuss with the abuser, it is not the investigator's job to do so, as this may antagonize the abuser or exacerbate his or her distrust, and therefore make them more resistant to change. In this investigation, the supervisor and investigator are meeting to plan for the first interview with the alleged perpetrator.
How did it go with Mr. Stevens?
He's pretty resistant. He's also pretty suspicious, but he appears to be blaming his daughter, Wanda, more than his wife for our involvement. He seems to think that Wanda has put Gloria up to it. I think those were his words. But he agreed to come in for an interview. Apparently, he plays golf every day. He comes across as fairly rigid and controlling, not just in how he blames Wanda for influencing his wife, but also in how he responded to his grandson's crying.
How are you feeling about the interview?
A little nervous. He seems like he has the potential to flare up pretty quickly.
That is why we are using the conference room with the big glass windows for the interview. We'll make sure to take out the coffee pot or anything else that can be used as a weapon. Be sure that you are the one sitting by the door, so the exit is not blocked. And I will be sure to stay close at hand in case things escalate. But remember, you are not trying to accuse him or even get a confession. You are there to gather information in a neutral way and get his side of the story. I've seen you do this before, and you are good at it.
Thanks.
Okay. You'll have to feel your way in querying him about any possible abuse of Gloria. Sounds like he's more focused on the incident with the grandson that led to the criminal charges. So maybe you can start by asking him how things have been in his home since then. Maybe he'll volunteer some useful information that will help you to engage him about how he responds to Gloria. It will be a real challenge to engage him. Maybe you could ask him about his golf game. Better yet, ask him about what he did for work.
Hello, Mr. Stevens. Thank you for coming in today.
Well, I didn't seem to have the choice, did I?
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. How was your golf?
All right.
Are you retired, Mr. Stevens?
Yes, 5 years now.
What line of work were you in?
Shoes. I was a shoe salesman for 29 years. Same company.
Wow, you must have been very good.
Not bad. I always made my quota.
Do you miss it?
Sometimes only because it was something I was used to.
I bet. I wonder how much things have changed in the shoe business.
Well, quite a bit, actually. It's all foreign-made shoes now. And there's a lot more types of footwear. Whereas before you just had your loafers, your cap toes, your wing tips, your brogans, and your Oxfords, now you have every kind of style under the sun. And people are as likely to want boots and sneakers, even your sandals for work now. So there's a lot more to know. I could usually talk them into something more classy than they came in for. If they wanted boat shoes for work, I'd recommend loafers. If they wanted sandals, I'd recommend espadrilles.
I see what you mean. That's interesting. I never thought about that. I didn't know there were so many varieties of men's shoes. So you have to be familiar with a lot more inventory.
Yes, and it's always changing.
I can imagine. Mr. Stevens, if you don't mind, I would like to ask you some questions.
Excuse me for going on. Okay, go right ahead.
As I explained on the phone, I work for Elder Protective Services. It is my job when we receive a report of a concern to talk to all parties who may have information about the situation. So I'll be asking some questions, but it's up to you if you want to answer those questions. Part of the concern involves your behavior toward your wife.
My behavior toward my wife? What lies is my ungrateful daughter Wanda saying about me now? I already told you she had me arrested.
Mr. Stevens, please sit down. I understand that these are some difficult questions, and I appreciate your cooperation. But I have to ask you to remain seated and to lower your voice in order for us to continue. I really want to hear your perspective, and that's why I've asked you to come in. So are we okay to continue?
I apologize, Miss Joseph.
It's Miss Johnson. Thank you. I can see this incident where you were arrested is very upsetting to you. Can I ask, how have things been in your family since then?
Well, it's pretty much ruined things as far as my being able to see the grandchildren. Wanda claimed I was rough with my grandson when all I was doing was putting him down in the crib. Apparently, she thinks I was abusive or some such thing. We were having an argument is all that was. And I was holding my grandson, and I didn't want to expose Sammy to the poison coming from Wanda. So I set him down in the crib so we could go into the next room. Next thing I know, she's claiming I threw him down in the crib.
I know that must be difficult for you not to be able to see your grandchild. How have things been between you and Mrs. Stevens since then?
Okay, except for the fact that she sticks up for Wanda, which I really don't appreciate. My wife could never say no to her kids. Whatever they want, she gives them. She lets them walk all over her. When I try to point that out, she gets upset at me, when I'm the one who's sticking up for her.
Have you and Gloria argued about this?
We've always argued about this, but it doesn't change things because our kids can do no wrong in her eyes.
When you argue, do you raise your voice?
We both do.
How often does that happen?
I don't know, once a month. It's more likely to happen when one of the kids is over or when we're over at their house.
When you raise your voice, do you call your wife any names?
Nothing out of the ordinary. I might say she's being crazy or stupid or something like that, but only when she's being irrational or stupid to let other people influence her or put ideas into her head.
What kind of ideas?
Well, now they've given her the idea that I'm not nice to her, that I'm harsh to her.
Do you think you're harsh to her sometimes?
Certainly not. I've always bent over backwards to accommodate her. Since she's had problems with her back, I offer to rub it for her, which she never wants, but I take her to the doctor. Not Wanda, not Sandra, not her fair weather friends who are always yakking on their phone with her. And I pay for everything, all the food, the utilities, you name it.
I see, but I wonder when you do get upset and you raise your voice, have you ever put your hands on her in anger?
Certainly not.
How about pushing her?
Never.
Grabbing her?
Just to prevent her from falling or from knocking into something.
Can you give me an example?
Well, lately she's been unsteady on her feet and she kind of teeters when she walks. A few times I've caught her to prevent her from falling.
Has there been any time when you grabbed her when you were upset at her or to prevent her from doing something?
2 weeks ago, we are arguing about Wanda and Sam, and she was sticking up for Wanda's decision to call the police, and I got upset that she was deliberately ignoring me.
How do you mean?
We were in the bedroom, and in the middle of this argument, she turns away from me and is folding laundry. I put my hand on her shoulder to get her to pay attention, and she started screaming like I had just tried to kill her or something, saying, "You leave me alone." Ben was in the next room. He's my son-in-law by marriage to Sandra, and I was worried that Gloria was loud enough for him to hear. I was trying to get her to soften her voice.
How were you doing that?
I was telling her to calm down at first, but she just kept getting louder. So I went to put my hand over her mouth to shush her, 'cause I figured Ben would be coming in at any moment.
Then what happened?
She pushed me.
And how did you react?
Well, I was angry that she should do such a thing, and I told her never to do that again.
Were you yelling?
Not really, because of Ben being there.
What happened next?
Eventually, it calmed down. She stopped yelling.
Did you do anything more to stop her from yelling?
Not that I can remember.
Did you actually put your hand over her mouth?
I tried to, but that's when she pushed me.
Did you do anything else?
Like what?
Slam the door, knock anything over, throw something?
Not deliberately.
What do you mean?
She said she wanted to get ready for dinner and she was looking for her hairbrush, so I picked it up and I gave it to her.
Did you hand it to her?
Well, I kind of pushed it in her direction.
Pushed it? Did you hit her with the brush?
No. I threw it toward her and she didn't catch it.
Did the brush hit her?
It kind of grazed her.
Where?
Somewhere in the head. As I said, she put her hand up to catch it and she missed it and it grazed her in the head.
In the back of the head or the front?
On the side. But like I said, it wasn't intentional. She was in such a big hurry to clean up and saying, "Where's my brush? Where's my brush?" I kind of took offense that this was her focus instead of what we had been talking about.
Were you angry?
Yes, I was angry that she was acting so irrationally. By putting on such a scene, I was afraid Ben would call the cops. And this didn't seem to matter to her. So yes, I was angry.
Did you say anything to Gloria when you threw the brush?
I might have said something like, "Here's your goddamn brush."
Do you think that might have scared her?
She had a look on her face when the brush hit her. I don't know if it was fear or anger.
What did you do?
I told her it wasn't my fault.
What did you mean?
That if she hadn't been in such a big hurry to brush her hair, and if she hadn't outright ignored me, and if she had just calmed down instead of screaming, none of that would have happened.
Thinking back on this, do you think there was any way you could have reacted differently?
I think it was only because of what had transpired with Wanda and our grandson, and with Gloria turning her back on me.
But do you think you could have reacted any differently, maybe in a way that wouldn't have further escalated the situation?
I don't know. She was so quick to flare up.
Do you think you flared up also?
Yes, I suppose I did, when she turned her back on me. And by not standing up to Wanda, I guess now you're going to tell me I need to go to an anger management class or something.
Mr. Stevens, I'm still in the process of collecting information about the overall situation. After I finish collecting information, part of my job is to make a determination about whether any help is needed in your family, and to make recommendations about that. Would you be receptive to that?
It depends on what it is. I feel like my whole family is against me to the point where I can't even see my grandchildren. I don't know. It depends on what it is.
Well, for instance, I know you're going to court soon, and it's possible that they will require you to attend an abuser education program.
Abuser program? Now you're sounding like Wanda.
These programs aren't concerned with labeling you as an abuser. They are practical. They are more concerned with helping you to learn better ways of communicating and working through problems.
Will this sort of thing help me in court?
It might help to show that you're interested in learning a better way of communicating and working through problems. So yes, but there's no guarantee. You mentioned feeling like your whole family is against you. I think it would be relieving for your family to know you're making this effort. I can certainly provide you with information about these types of programs.
Did you notice how Ralph often avoided answering questions or diverted attention onto Gloria or his children? Kelly did a really nice job of getting him back on track. Also, you can see how important it was for the investigator to ask specific prompting questions, such as, have you thrown things, have you used names, etc., as most abusers will not volunteer that information, but will sometimes admit it when directly asked. It was also important for the investigator to not label Ralph as an abuser, as many abusers become fixated and agitated when such labels are used. Rather, she stuck to asking him about his behavior. Further, when introducing the need for services, she focused on the positive goals, such as learning better ways of communicating and working through problems, rather than focusing on the type of program it is. In this case, Adult Protective Services could not mandate that the abuser attend a program, but could recommend it. It's important that referrals are made to the right kind of program. When partner abuse is a problem, abuser education programs are appropriate, not anger management programs, which are not designed for intimate partner violence and are therefore counterproductive, as they focus on anger rather than an overall pattern of abuse and control. Couples counseling is never appropriate referral when partner abuse is ongoing, as it can never ensure the victim's safety before or after sessions. When domestic violence is a problem, separate services are recommended: a victim advocacy program for the victim and an abuser education program for the perpetrator. Now, there's one final point I'd like to make. One of the most disarming things about some abusers is that they don't come across as abusers. I call that the likability factor. In fact, some abusers may come across more likable than their victims. So don't be misled by this when assessing for abuse, and remember, it's still important to ask all the questions.
This concludes Program 2, Interviewing Alleged Perpetrators. Program 3 in the series continues with a panel discussion of intervention strategies.